My name is Kitty Clark Stevenson. 3 names, no hyphen. I'll be my father's daughter until the day I die, and I'm very proud of being a Clark. The thing that I also love about my name, quite frankly, is that Kitty is my given name. My father named me. He didn't like Kate. He didn't like Catherine. He didn't like any of that stuff, but he loved Kitty. And I like to tell people, when you grow up with a name like Kitty, you learn to fight at a very early age. It comes from this here, Kitty, Kitty, Kitty. No, okay. I'm older now. I've socialized greatly. I'm actually a great-grandmother now, so I'm multi-generational, so we'll be fine. I am the owner and the president of my own consultancy. It is a HR, human resources consultancy, and I'm actually going into my 32nd year of business. So I'm very happy about being able to share my passion, share my knowledge and my ability, and to do those things with people that care about doing the right things for the right reasons. Having grown up here in Arlington County, I actually grew up in the county when we were still segregated. I grew up under Jim Crow, and I'm sure other people that have talked about the various Arlington experiences have shared some idea of that. But simply what it was the separation, the segregation of the races here in Arlington County. And so our school system was segregated, our parks and recreation work was segregated, our fire department was segregated, and a lot of the memories that I have growing up in the county clearly comes through that particular filter. Our fire department, our parks actually began to integrate in 1967. And my father, Alfred Warren Clark, was the first Negro, we were being called Negroes back in those days, Negro fire captain in the competitive service of Arlington County government, and as I recall, the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we're very proud of that particular piece of history. It was also at that time that they integrated Halls Hill, Station 8, the Negro station house, and so we began to deal with that and the races with regard to that. The playground that I grew up on was there in North Arlington, North Dinwiddie Street. That was the playground that I knew, that I grew up with, and everything we did around that way. When we had to do recreational activities, one of the places that I can recall going was to the Arlington chapter of the Red Cross. And they would open up their building, and a lot of the things that we did, and we learned tap dancing, 5 years of ballet to a tap, okay? Those are the kinds of things that we either did in Langston Elementary School, now Langston Brown Community Center, but Langston Elementary School. And the thing about growing up in that sort of nucleus of community of people, you kind of knew everybody and everybody knew you. They kind of knew your people, you knew their people, and it was the kind of thing, and I don't think that's going to happen in any society in our country today, but if you showed off on Mrs. Smith Street, not only did Mrs. Smith have permission to spank you, you got another spanking when you got home. So you really behaved yourself in the community. It was not like going out on another street and acting out. The other thing that I also recalled is that we all kept a key under the pot on the porch by the front door. So you could go into anybody's house when I was growing up in Arlington County in our neighborhood. So if you got hungry, if you got thirsty, if you had to use the restroom, you could do those kinds of things. And again, that was important because public facilities were not available to us. That first transition piece for me, I think, in Arlington County happened when Swanson Junior High School, now Swanson Middle School, integrated. We were the second school in the county that actually did the integration at the junior high school level. You've probably heard the Stratford story already from different people that lived that experience. So I was on a different part of the line when they drew the line for the public school, so I got to go to Swanson. And the most interesting thing for me about going into Swanson Junior High School was acknowledging that no matter what the law said, Our education definitely was separate, and it definitely was not equal. To be in that environment, to learn what other people had been taught from elementary school age, and I not have had those experiences, or even had the quality of the books that they had, that was a real eye-opener for me. And to sort of ponder, you know, it must be more to this stuff than I really thought. I can also remember, Cheryl, when we were having the discussions in the community, different parents, different associations, the Arlington branch of the NAACP, for example, meeting with us school kids that were about to move into this thing called integrated schools, and being with other races, and being with teachers and counselors who were not of our community, who did not know us, who did not know our people. And how are we going to succeed in that? How are we going to survive in that? And how are we going to have success in that? And then, on top of all of those agendas, how are we going to learn? How are we going to prepare for what we want to do? And I'm glad that it happened. I'm curious is that if we had to go through that kind of experiment today, how would we fare? How would we do? Would we do better? Because young people have such a wonderful chasm of separation from our reality and the world as they see it today, that to even experience that, to even think that it happened, I'm not sure they can get there. The other thing that I think was interesting about Swanson Junior High School, it's also the high school where Warren Beatty and Shirley MacLaine went to school here in Arlington. And so the thing that I just delighted in is that Warren Beatty and I had the same home ec teacher. Okay, different years, clearly. But that whole idea, and the question was, back in that generation, the boys took shop and auto mechanics, and the girls all took home economics and how to change a baby's diaper. But be that as it may, you had to learn how to do these things. And I can remember the home ec teacher talking about, you know, that Warren Beatty, this was such the easiest A he ever had to get. He was a jock, he was an actor, he really didn't have to be smart, so they say. But be that as it may, it was like, oh, Warren didn't have to bake a cake because there was a girl in the class that would bake it for him. And Warren never had to finish his apron with the apron ties because a girl would finish that for him. First time I had to deal with inequity when it comes to gender. And trying to say, but why? I mean, I would have loved to have known how to break down a carburetor and put it back together too. But those opportunities just were not available to me. Shirley and I had the same math teacher. Okay, different years. But to hear the teacher talk about Shirley MacLaine and how her whole idea was dance. She loved dance. That's what she was all about. That's what her family supported. That's what her family would make sure that she had the opportunities. And if she had to be out of school for a performance, so be it. Just that much insight into how different people dealt with things and their children differently really began to open up something for me, because then when we had the situation where some of the children in the school would not be in class because of Yom Kippur, all of a sudden I had to deal with differences on religious bases, on ethnic bases, things growing up in the Negro community I just never had to deal with. Often as I talk about it now, when I think about the changes that I had to deal with, particularly when it comes to religious beliefs, I only had to deal with Christians and Jews. That's all I knew, okay? And the only time I had to deal with Muslims was after Malcolm X came on scene. You know, I needed to understand that. I think the Arlington County voices are so much richer, are so very different. And those opportunities, I think, are better for our children, for our grandchildren, and even for our great-grandchildren.